With that love, let it out. Feel the earth, feel it move, let it out.
Right now we are at the Chestnut Lot. It's a project organized by Foodscape Long Beach, and this site is intended to be a food forest. The concept basically entails that over time this site will be resilient and self-providing, just like a food forest, and require minimal human input in order to stay alive and be productive. So the high goal of this project is to disseminate ecological literacy. And so we want people to have access to a site that actually encourages ecological awareness and cultivates that. And so that comes in the form of like understanding where your food comes from, and but also just understanding like how spaces could be used in the city versus always having to build something on it, because that's oftentimes what is prioritized by municipalities and by people whose ideology is worshiping profit versus the wellness of people and the wellness of an ecology. This space is also related to our Foodscape Your Lawn program. Foodscape Long Beach aims to enable our community to be more sustainable through ecological literacy, and we do that by developing underused space in the city. And there's a lot of underutilized space in the city, so it comes in the form of vacant lots and things like that, but also comes in the form of people's residential homes. Turning a lawn into a productive garden space that has that produces food and medicine and has other social yields. I mean, people who plant a garden in their front yard suddenly start to have way more conversations with neighbors who are walking by, commenting on the thing, or an opportunity to share something with their neighbors, right? Because there's actually something tangible to give them. And so again, it's taking an underutilized space and stacking the yield way higher, and popularizing that concept also. I mean, a food productive front yard is a billboard for the food movement.
I started working with SoCal Harvest in July of 2009. Kathy Clarkin founded it in January of 2009 in response to Obama's call to service and to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. It's a very basic concept of picking backyard fruit and donating it to those in need. And what she started was very tiny. She had very little tiny amounts of tools and so on and so forth. And we've built it up. I think we've built it up quite a bit over the last 5 years, and we're applying for our own 501c3 now. So hopefully by the end of the year we'll be a legitimate 501c3 of our own. SoCal Harvest was created to rescue food that was being wasted, and it's basically just trying to create community in Long Beach so that we can feed everyone here in Long Beach that is in need. People like to give back to the community. For this, I think this is probably one of the simplest ways of giving back. And the way that I structured it, I'm not sure how the founder structured it, but the way that I structured it is between 60 minutes and 2 hours is the amount of time that you volunteer. And we pick the tree, and then we take it to the food bank and weigh it, and then the homeowner gets a receipt for tax purposes. So if there's 500 pounds of grapefruit, they get a receipt for 500 pounds of grapefruit, which is $1 per pound, so $500. So if they itemize, it's a really good deal. If they don't, then they're just doing a good deed. For me, that's just something I've been wanting to do since I was probably 13 or 14 years old. My grandmother had fruit trees, and I grew up with peaches and plums and couldn't understand why the food in the grocery store didn't taste the way that that fruit tasted, and just kept trying to put those two things together, and it never worked until I started this. We've actually been able to hand the food to people that are less fortunate, and that's an extremely powerful. It's like, I don't think we could do it every day because we'd all just be crying all the time because you see people that are so hungry and they're just eating junk, and then somebody gives them a really ripe, good orange, not a sun-kissed orange that was picked too soon and doesn't taste like an orange, but a really good orange, and then they eat it and they're like, wow, where did this come from? And I'm like, down the street. What do you mean? In that person's backyard. Really? How did you get it? You know, and then you try to connect the dots with people, and people are just blown away.
Beach Greens, we deliver produce to people's homes, and I started it because I just wanted an easier way for people to get produce. You know, I had friends who didn't want to go to the farmer's market necessarily, you know, people who care about eating good food but don't necessarily want to go to lengths, and I'm talking about going to a farmer's market on a Sunday morning, a length to get the food. And so I thought, why not make it a little bit easier, bring it to their door, supporting local organic farmers. There's people who definitely want to grow their own food. There's people who will never be interested in dirt on their food. But for a certain subset of people that just wanted the food delivered to their home and they wanted to eat good food and they like to cook, I figured it was just a small part of a larger picture. Some of the reactions that I get from customers is that we change their way of eating. That's the biggest one we get. We change their way of eating, and it's like Christmas every week. Because every week they open one of these boxes and they have stuff there. Some of it they've never heard of, some of it they might know what it is, they might know what to do with it, they might not. So the biggest thing I would say is we change the way that people eat. You know, people are used to eating vegetables in a packaged, pre-washed, very sorted form, and the way that our boxes arrive are fresh from the farm. So the farmers have washed them, but we don't do any washing of any kind, we just sort. So things will come with dirt on them, and that blows people's minds. One of the challenges of eating local food grown in Long Beach is that there's just not enough volume of it for my business. It's a small business anyways. And there's a lot of spaces in Long Beach that could be used to grow food that just aren't. Honestly, if Beach Greens is successful, we'd be out of business because we wouldn't have to do what we do. Everybody would grow their own food, everybody would have access to a neighborhood garden, and there would be no need for what we do. It basically comes down to me is that we vote with our dollar, and every dollar that I spend not at a grocery store or not at Walmart on organics is going to where I want it to go, and that's the small California family farmers, because that's the future of sustainable farming is small family farms.
I'm Chef Paul Buchanan from Primal Alchemy Catering. We're located here in Long Beach, California. I have a catering company that's been around for 14, 15 years and slowly grown it to where it is today. We like to focus on local, seasonal, and sustainable foods. So our associations with local farmers here in Long Beach and at the farmers market in the local area is very, very important to us. So we're always looking at those sources of where to get the foods and how to get those foods prepared the most simply and delicious way possible and get it to our guests. So the challenges as a chef to find local food was pretty severe when I first started Primal Alchemy. If it wasn't growing in my own garden and I couldn't find it at the farmer's market, I really couldn't find much in town. There was a handful of us 15 years ago that were really trying to get the movement started here to use local and seasonal produce. And there's been so many organizations that have come into the local seasonal movement, and here in Long Beach that have started to contribute. We have our own ice cream being made, we have more organic farms being made, we have more farmers markets. So many people are more aware now of local food and local food movement. What's organic? What are GMOs? What's local, seasonal, sustainable? What's the difference between the pork that you buy in the store and the pork you may get from a small farm? So the education has grown exponentially recently that awareness has grown to the Green Prize. And so that was our most recent, big green push. It was the largest, best ever. We had, local breweries, we had local people that were making their own soap, they were making their own cookies, people that had herbs, people that had, from SoCal Harvest, Cindy Goss, small farms that were selling things. So more awareness was generated of that, because we've really gotten to the point now where it is finally mainstream. I think from TV, from people knowing that maybe Monsanto and the GMOs are not the best for them, that what's been in the news has educated them, and so they're more concerned about what they're putting in their body, and that food is medicine.
Well, I think the benefits of this festival are definitely that it attracts like-minded people who are looking to connect with resources and with each other and to amplify what they're doing in the green space. The challenges of the food movement right now are connectivity and connecting the people who are trying to grow food in Long Beach with the people who want to serve healthy local food and the people who want to eat local healthy food. And this is a place where that kind of connection can happen.
We live in the neighborhood. We've been in the neighborhood for 20 years, and so we keep a garden. We have a little bit of a yard. We have a little bit of space, and we've been as involved as we can be.
We compost.
Yeah, we compost. We use beach greens. That's been a new experience, but it's been really good for us. It's something that brings communities together more successfully than skeptics like to believe.
It also really reminds me what I love about Long Beach, so it's a fun day.
I think the impact is that more and more people are being exposed to whether it's urban farms or renewable energy or green, recyclable type artists, all the different vendors that we have here, urban farms and farmers. So every time we do something like this, more and more people are being exposed to these concepts, these industries, these green tech areas. And I think it then starts to challenge them, when they're at home, at work, at school. Okay, do I need to do something here? Do I need to do something just a little bit differently to live a more sustainable life? And that's what we want people to walk away with.
I was peeking, we were dancing to the beat of the bass. Boom, 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 boom. There were times in this night I could not replace. So I know now you'd let me drown. So I know now you'd let me drown. World, I was looking for a girl like you, a girl like you, someone who could twirl in the wind just like you do, just like you do. Funk so nice, got me feeling so right. Smiles on the dance floor make me feel so nice. She was drinking, I was peeking, we were dancing to the beat of the bass. Boom, 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 boom. There were times in this night I could not